Okay, thanks, Gio and Ravi and Scott. I've got your bios in a coming slide, but I just want to start off by mentioning to people who I think you guys are. Both of you are good friends and colleagues and associates. And let me start by saying a little bit about Scott. Scott has had a career where he's been toe to toe with some of the nation's greatest adversaries, working national security issues, really knows the national security threat. He's also had a career helping enterprises ensure they are secure by mitigating risk and has worked with thousands of enterprises globally. Ravi, I've worked with for years, and Ravi's been at the forefront of AI for decades, helping companies understand and leverage machine learning. And then in the transition to generative AI, helping as a pioneer there, and is one of the builders of this thing called agentic AI, which we've all heard of, but now soon you're going to be able to listen to a real builder who really has built with agentic AI. I'm Bob Gorley. I'm a cybersecurity practitioner with decades of experience in cybersecurity and cyber attack and helping enterprises become more secure. And I've also spent time as a chief technology officer, both in industry and in government. I was the chief technology officer at the Defense Intelligence Agency. Today, I run the UDA Network, which is a network of about 350 executives that team together and try to understand the future of risk and the future of how to mitigate risk, which is important. And that is all context for this presentation we're about to get into. We have a presentation for you, a live demo, and then insights into how we're going to use agentic AI to continue to mitigate these risks. And with that, I'm going to start sharing my screen here and present to you some context on Blackwire Labs, and starting with a bit on the threat to public sector organizations. The agenda we want to cover today in the next 50 minutes is shown here. We definitely want to talk about some of the unique aspects of the threat landscape that state and local organizations are dealing with. And then not just the threat actors, but how they're doing it. And then some of the needs of state and local defenders and the key pain points that have to be addressed. We'll get into Blackwire Labs and some of the AI power behind Blackwire Labs, and discuss the impact that Blackwire can have on streamlining your compliance, as well as accelerating your overall ability to leverage intelligence to your needs, and how it can transform cybersecurity overall. I already mentioned Ravi and Scott, and guys, I want to give you a chance to correct the record if you think I said anything wrong there, but think the world of Ravi. He's a true builder who has created scalable, global, world-class technology solutions, including what he is building and has built at Blackwire Labs. And Scott has decades of experience both in intelligence and cybersecurity and national security. And each of these gents has deep experience in delivering solutions that address pain points, both commercial pain points and for state, local, and federal government. Scott or Ravi, anything you want to say to correct the record here? Did I get that about right?
I would only add one more thing, Bob. I'm excited to be here, and the main reason is I sat on the offensive side while I was at the Central Intelligence Agency, and I love being part of Blackwire Labs so that we're on the defensive side, taking the best offense and best defense and curate them into a solution that we have here. I think is going to be the answer for a lot of our clients and partners.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. All right, let's get into it. The threat. I think state, local, and federal actors are already very familiar with the threat. And, increasingly, the threat actors are so financially motivated, they're just unrelenting. And when it comes to state and local attacks, I just pulled a couple from the last few weeks that I thought are kind of representative of the overall threat actors and what they're doing. For example, in April, the attack against South Shore, Massachusetts, their emergency communications center, it really degraded the ability to respond to emergencies, and also, unfortunately, led to a breach of information, which included information on the citizens who were calling and the responses to those calls. In May, the Texas Department of Transportation crash record system had a major intrusion. And this one was bad because not only did it cause a disruption in the system, but it ended up in the compromise of over 360,000 records, including personal identifiable information on all crashes. Anybody who'd been involved in an incident had their information compromised. We see many other state and local attacks. I list one from Alabama I thought was particularly severe in May, which was a breach into multiple state services that were all connected to the state's network. One of the most famous occurred just in July. This got headlines around the world in St. Paul, Minnesota. The entire city government was hit by a very insidious ransomware attack. The city was forced to take everything offline, everything, schools, libraries, emergency response, all citizen services had to be taken offline to recover from this really expensive ransomware attack. The cost of this is still being tallied and cleaning this up. They have to replace a lot of hardware and systems, and all because of a financially motivated ransomware attack. The attacks continue up to this very day. A recent one just 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. This, unfortunately, holds a lot of data on cases that they're bringing together, including stuff that by law must be protected. People have the right to privacy and presumption of innocence. But now these kind of records, when they get out, unfortunately, can cause harm even before there's been any kind of court case. Well, you guys know more than me the threat to you and your systems, but I think these are kind of emblematic and representative of the kind of things we have to deal with. And dealing with these from a state and local perspective is really hard because the threat actors just keep coming and keep coming. Who are these threat actors? Well, the first two categories at the top here, ransomware gangs and criminal groups. Think of this as a Venn diagram. All ransomware gangs these days are in it for criminal motivations, but there are other criminal groups that use other methods besides ransomware to acquire information for sale or for other ways of getting value from it. There's also, unfortunately, nation states coming against public sector organizations, especially the counties. Why are they coming for the counties? Well, that's where they can get information on any citizen in the US if they're successful in their attacks. Then there's also the many operational technology systems that are used by counties, which adversaries can penetrate to position for more significant attacks against our nation. Another comment I want to make on ransomware and ransomware gangs before going deeper. The ransomware gangs these days are highly specialized collectives with different organizations taking responsibilities for different components of a ransomware attack. For example, one organization might specialize in getting initial access. They will then sell that access. Other organizations will specialize in writing malware. They will then sell that malware. Other organizations will specialize in command and control or negotiation of the ultimate result. So this evolution is they're evolving into a very specialized organization of organizations, and it makes it even harder to thwart these organizations. So a couple other comments on how these adversaries do it. Two basic ways that public sectors are being attacked. One is system misconfigurations, and the second is exploiting the human element by very advanced phishing campaigns. So let me talk briefly about both. The system misconfigurations can happen to anybody, especially in state and local governments where there's so many systems, many of which are legacy systems. Once an adversary finds a way into one through some misconfiguration, they can elevate access and quickly begin to proliferate throughout the system. The advanced phishing campaigns exploit human qualities of trust, and frankly, there's a lot of good people in public service, and good people want to help others out, and we like that. We want that. but that is something that adversaries exploit. They will call posing as a citizen or a vendor or someone else in a different government and ask for help and trick someone into doing the wrong thing. I mentioned at the bottom here, AI enhanced ransomware. The ransomware I mentioned is continuing to evolve. It's evolving to the point where AI itself is being used to generate the code. Now, that ransomware is usually something that comes after one of the first two exploits above, after they found the system misconfiguration, after they have gotten their way in through social engineering. They can deploy advanced ransomware to do the horrible kind of damage like what happened in St. Paul. Which gets to this slide. What is different about public sector, especially state and local governments? Now, I know if you're from a state and local government, like most who registered for this presentation are, you know this very well. I would present this as, please, this is my list. Check my assumptions. Give me feedback if you think I missed something or I'm emphasizing the wrong thing. But maybe the most important reason why state and local governments are unique is they hold data on citizens. Every U.S. citizen has data held by a state and by a county somewhere. And this is high value information for adversaries. It's very attractive to them. Another reason that state and local governments are unique is the fragmented infrastructure, which includes a lot of legacy systems. It's just a fact. There always will be a lot of legacy systems, which increases vulnerabilities and makes it hard to keep configuration up on these systems. There's the reality of budgetary pressures as well. No county or state has all the resources they need to get the job done. Another thing that is just a reality is the fact that counties and states are here to serve their citizens. And the way you do that is you connect to the citizens and serve them online through the internet or through their mobile devices. And that increases exposure in the attack surface. We mentioned before the threat actors. Well, I mentioned that it's unique to state and local governments that hostile nations also want to get there to pre-position for follow-on attacks should a crisis in a war with the U.S. occur. We see that far too often. China especially positioning themselves to be able to take down critical infrastructure that's controlled by counties and states. Many other constraints include the fact that nobody has all the people they want, and the people it's impossible to keep them all fully trained and up to speed. Other complexities include jurisdictional issues, and then we're all dependent on so many vendors. How do you deal with all of these? Well, we have just a brief list here. These are the kind of things that we see counties doing to try to mitigate these responses. There's a lot of great leadership in counties and states that are dealing with these the best they can by leveraging best practices. Everyone is working to upskill the workforce continuously through mentoring and training. We all have some degree of detection systems, and keeping those fine-tuned is critically important. We exercise responses and recoveries. The challenge of ensuring optimal configurations is a never-ending thing, including not just patching systems, but making sure the right features are turned on and off. The practice of incident response and the development of incident response plans are critical. And most everyone now is at least looking to artificial intelligence as a way to help increase our ability to defend, which leads us now to Blackwire Labs. Blackwire Labs is a way to put artificial intelligence and vetted, verified information from world-class cyber experts on your side. We list a few of the features and benefits here. I'm going to give you a demo in just a minute that underscores how this works today and shows you the power of Blackwire Labs. It is created as an AI native system, born in the age of AI. It's not just AI tacked onto something else. It is built upon expert, validated, and verified information where human cybersecurity experts have reviewed and underscore what is valid and most important. It includes an ability to check configurations of just about any IT platform out there. It is up to date with threat intelligence, just updated by the minute on what the latest indicators of compromise are. and provides a way to give you on-demand expertise. With that, I want to switch now and go to a demonstration of Blackwire Labs. As I'm switching to this demonstration, I want to remind you to please come with your questions. And if you list any questions in your system here in the Q&A channel, we'll be getting back to those in just a minute. All right, let me share my screen. What you should be seeing now is a slide that says, or a browser. You're looking at my web browser. If you don't see this on your Zoom, look at the tabs at top and select the tab that says shared screen. Now, the system here, Blackwire Labs, I'm going to orient you to the top. You see the button that says Getting Started here. You will always be able to return back to this when you're using Blackwire Labs to refresh yourself on what the features and benefits are. These links take you to additional information on how Blackwire Labs works and where we get our data from, how we categorize it. So I'm going to go through a demo, but keep in mind, whenever you need to get back and see this kind of information, you just click on the B here and it will display it again. You see this column called trending prompts. You're able to see across the system prompts that others have shared and created in the Blackwire Labs system. So you can see what's on the mind of others. There's a column here called Insight Hub, which I'm going to get back to in a minute. But for now, I just want to say that this is a place where you can see your previous queries. No one else sees those unless you have intentionally shared them. And I'll get back and show you more of the Insight Hub in just a second. I'm going to scroll down a little bit on the Blackwire Labs system and show you another thing from the main Blackwire interface. You see 3 boxes here. These are prompts. We've built some pre-prompts in that you can select to help accelerate your use of the system, categorized into strategic, operational, and tactical. If you're using Blackwire Labs and want to take a strategic view into some of the system results, you can start here by diving into the topic of interest. If you're doing strategic planning, for example, and need help updating your strategic plan, or if you're doing vendor management and need some help accelerating your vendor management. Operational prompts are those that deal with the day-to-day business of cybersecurity. These are the things that your IT workforce and your cybersecurity workforce are dealing with all the time. Vulnerability assessment, vulnerability management, patch management, the latest threat intelligence. Clicking any of these prompts will accelerate you into there. When you are in the fight, when you are responding to an intrusion, or you're doing a very rapid patch update or other actions to mitigate a threat, you use more tactical prompts, and this gives you some pre-prompts here. Now, let me go down to this bottom box, the one that says, Ask me anything about cybersecurity. This is the most powerful feature of all in Blackwire Labs. You can ask any question dealing with any topic of IT configuration or cybersecurity or the cyber threat and get a vetted, verified response. I want to show you some of these now, some of my favorite prompts. Some I ran in building the threat brief for this presentation. One other thing before I do, I want to tell you how we express the verification of our sources. I'm back up at the top on the Welcome to Blackwire Labs box here. I'm clicking on Source Tiers. And before showing you the response, I want to show you how we categorize our sources. You see, every response we give you is based upon real data, no hallucination whatsoever. And this is real data that's reviewed by a cybersecurity community of interest, real cybersecurity practitioners. And we will tell you the source tiers of this data. For example, category 1 comes from these key organizations listed here, or others as approved by the cybersecurity community of interest for providing ground truth information. Category 2 is from other verified and validated research from the cybersecurity community of interest, which includes our own proprietary information, but also expert interviews and original research. We also bring in third-party information, which is extremely valid, but we categorize it as a category 3, so you know it's not from one of the top 2 tiers. And I'm going to show you now a query that has been run and how you're going to be able to tell the responses and those verified information. I asked Blackwire Labs this question. I want to check the configuration of both my Microsoft Office and Google Cloud workspaces to ensure my county is mitigating risk. Please give me a checklist for both. After thinking for a few seconds, get this response. Now, I'm not going to walk you through the entire thing other than to say this is a very good checklist on things to go through. It gives you specific actions for both Microsoft and Google Cloud. And then if you want to know where did this information come from, you come here at the bottom and you can see exactly where this information came from and the tiers by our categorization, so you know how much trust to put into this. You can click on this and dive deeper into any of these topics. We ensure that you're getting the right information by use of a blockchain trust wire, which proves that this was the real information that was provided. Now I want to talk a little bit more about this thing I call the Insight Hub, which is over on the right-hand side of your screen. Let's say I like this response and I want to save it. I can click here and save it to a registry for my future reference. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to click Save and put this in a registry I'm going to call Working Notes. I may want to share this with others. It's now saved. Now back to my Insight Hub. You see here Sessions. This is every question I've asked in the last couple days. I can open any of these questions. What was the cyber attack against St. Paul in July 2025? And get the full review and what has happened based upon verified, validated information. No hallucination. This is the ground truth. And to prove it's the ground truth, you can look at the real information and see how vetted this information is. You can go back at the Insight Hub here now to the registry and see where I saved this analysis I was just running. So I can use this for future reference or to collaborate and coordinate with others. This is a very high-level overview of Blackwire Labs. We would love to give you a more detailed demo that's kind of focused on your organization. And to do that, we are going to offer anybody who tunes in here a free trial of Blackwire Labs. All you have to do is reach out. We'll follow up by email with everyone. We'll set up an onboarding session, get you into Blackwire Labs, and show you more of the details. With that, let me move back to the presentation and we'll transition to you, Scott. But first, a polling question. Sorry, question number 2. Please take a moment and answer this question as we transition here. Scott, you should now be seeing the slide on use cases.
Perfect, I do. Thanks, Bob. Hey, team. So I just want to cover down on 3 different use cases because Bob's done a great job of kind of covering the platform, but I kind of want to get down into the nitty-gritty. The 3 that I'm going to cover, one's covering healthcare, the second one is a government operational one, and the third specific one is a large beverage manufacturing company. So with the healthcare company, the challenge that they were facing was processing a massive breach data set for actionable intelligence. And if you were to assign anybody on your team, that could take weeks or days. This we're able to do in hours. Some of the solutions sets that Blackwire specifically delivered were a threat intelligence unit processed 20 gigabytes of breached dump data, the credential exposure analysis with patient impact assessment. So that was done at the same time. just by kind of prompting it along the lines that Bob showed earlier today. They were able to ask the questions, the data was in there. They then were able to look at the HIPAA compliance implications and notification requirements. They're able to look at the cross-organization threat correlation, the executive briefings with the business continuity recommendations. So pretty much this large ISAC is able to provide 1,000 members actionable intelligence on the breach data sets that they're experiencing and seeing. This also, one of the things that Bob touched on, traceable analysis. All findings include direct sourcing and references to where and how we got it, as well as an analytical methodology. The business impact to that group was 50 to 70% efficiency gains, and the output quality uplift on intelligence collection alone was through the roof. A second example that I kind of wanted to cover was specifically around government operations. We had one of the largest counties in the United States. It's a complex county because it borders our national capital. One of the things that the CISO was facing was a critical challenging requiring a comprehensive analysis of their outdated technical controls within a tight timeline and with tight budget constraints. They only had 13 people. Some of the key challenges that they faced were outdated technical controls in the county's cybersecurity policies. The resources I mentioned, only 13 people, and they're protecting 1.3 million citizens in this county. It's pretty much a Fortune 500 level network infrastructure. The staff limitations alone, the bandwidth to redirect some of your staff to go ahead and look at those policies was going to take forever. There was also executive pressure. I mean, when you border the nation's capital and there's all type of things related to bordering counties, bordering states, that made it a little bit more complicated as well. The cost pressures. If they would have gone out to a consulting firm, one of the big four, it would have cost $180K, 6 weeks of an engagement, and maybe not a quality deliverable. Our strategic objectives at the end were to conduct a comprehensive technical control validation analysis, identify gaps in current cybersecurity policies, and then provide specific recommendations for those policies. Ultimately, to establish an investment priority for where they're going to go with their cybersecurity footprint. To recap that challenge, ultimately, the solution that we delivered, we were able to deliver a multi-frame compliance assessment using NIST, CISA, and state regulations. We were able to kind of impact their budget analysis by providing remediation recommendations right there on the spot so that they didn't have to guess where they should allocate their money. And then the last thing was to grant funding alignment for future cybersecurity improvements. The net, at a fraction of the cost, you're not taking anybody offline. This platform was able to deliver. The last one I wanted to share was around our large beverage manufacturing company. The problem set statement specifically, the CISO faced a critical challenge in securing board level investment for cybersecurity improvements. The organization's security program had multiple CIS controls with a maturity level of 0. This presented a significant business risk across their complex IT and OT environment. The low security maturity, multiple CIS controls at a maturity level of 0. They needed compelling data-driven business case to secure investment for going forward. So our strategic approach was, hey, let's get with the CISO. He said, we shared that we believe that we should do a comprehensive CIS analysis with specific maturity improvement recommendations. So that is what we fed into Blackwire Labs. We took all of his controls. We looked at them to see which ones he should focus on as far as were more critical and pressing. And then we were able to cross-reference security improvements with ultimately their cyber insurance application requirement. So one tied to the other. How am I going to get the board to give me more money to make us more resilient and secure? And then also, the double impact there is the fact that the cyber insurance itself would be reduced if they could uplift their CIS controls. So again, they could have gone out, hired one of the big four. It would have been pretty expensive. It probably would have taken people offline with questionnaires. it also would not have been as accurate, and it's not based on curated, referenceable, and verified information and putting it against things like NIST, CISA, and so forth. So Blackwire, we completed the assessment of the CS controls. Everything that was above a maturity that was at a 0, we were able to recommend the specific improvement. We were able to cross-reference this analysis with the cyber insurance application. And ultimately, the net of that was a savings against their cyber insurance, an uplift of their CIS controls. And most importantly, the best compliment we got from that CISO at the very end was he went back to the board, he went to the C-suite, they asked him, hey, how many people do you think you need to hire to make sure that you're good to go going forward? Because this was a pretty big lift. He said, we're flat. Blackwire Labs was able to comprehensively address all of these things, give us the recommendations, and now we're also saving money. We're not having to bring additional people on board, and we uplifted the people on the team who were able to use the platform. Over to you, Robbie.
Thanks, Scott. So, Bob painted a stark picture of the threats facing state and local governments. And as Scott showed, Blackwire has already been helping organizations tackle these challenges with our platform. What I'm going to talk about represents the future and the complete evolution in how we're approaching cybersecurity work. So this fall, we're going to be releasing a new version of our platform that we're calling 2.0. But it's not just a new version, it's an entirely new paradigm where we're trying to move beyond traditional AI tools to create the first collaborative AI workforce specifically designed for cybersecurity. So this isn't just an incremental improvement. Think of this as a fundamental reimagining of how cybersecurity gets done. So one of the key changes here, we're going to be shifting our platform from the single AI advisor that you saw to a comprehensive platform of specialized cybersecurity agents. So think of it as we built a cybersecurity consulting firm in the cloud, but one that's available 24/7, never gets tired, and continuously learns from the latest data. But what I'm going to cover in the next 15 minutes is Blackwire 2.0's new features and breakthrough agentic technology and why it's fundamentally different from any AI tools you might have seen. I'll talk about and highlight 4 specialized AI agents that we've built among many that will transform how you handle threat intelligence, compliance issues, crisis planning, and daily intelligence. I'll talk about how all of this changes the future of cybersecurity work and makes your team more productive so they can focus on bigger issues. And practically, what does this mean for your organization from a day-to-day standpoint? So by the end, our hope is you'll understand how to multiply your team's effectiveness 10x without needing to add additional headcount. So let's start with some of the key features that are coming out in 2.0. First is the ability to bring your own knowledge base. So you'll be able to securely integrate your policies, your procedures, organizational context with complete data security. You'll have in-session intelligence, so you'll be able to upload and analyze documents, PDFs, video, audio files, go out to specific URLs in real time during conversations. So no more having to switch between tools. We'll have live external data integration, so automatic connections to very popular third-party feeds like Volcheck, CrowdStrike, Microsoft Defender, all through your own API keys for that real-time threat data. We have Trustwire, which Bob showed you a little bit of, and that's our blockchain-powered verification of every source with immutable audit trails. So this could be used for any compliance or regulatory requirements you might have. We'll have Lexi, which is an AI assistant that we've built into the platform that helps you craft better questions and access focus insights based on your industry, your interests, and your role. And most importantly, we're going to build all of this on a brand new agentic ecosystem. So think of that as specialized independent AI agents for different cybersecurity domains that autonomously collaborate and coordinate like your best security team to execute specific tasks without you even having to prompt them. So you'll have the world's best threat analyst, compliance expert, policy writer, crisis planner, all collaborating with you using Blackwire 2.0. Now, like I mentioned, we're going to be building a library of these agents, and we're also going to be enabling our clients to build their own. And today, I'm going to highlight 4 of these agents that directly address their biggest operational challenges. Right now, I'm just going to give you a quick overview, and then later on, we can get into more details. The first one I'll talk about later today is the operationalizing intelligence agent. So this will help you transform your threat reports into actionable technical guidance. We have your compliance agent, which will help automate policy analysis and do gap assessments. We'll have our tabletop exercise agent that will help you do comprehensive crisis simulations in just hours, not weeks. And then we have a daily brief or deep research agent that will deliver personalized cybersecurity intelligence tailored to your organization and industry. So each of these agents, think of them as representing years and decades of cybersecurity experience distilled into specific workflows that understand your specific environments and challenges. But before I get into exactly what each of these agents are and how they work, you might have questions about exactly what are AI agents, how are they different from ChatGPT and Gemini, et cetera. So let's talk about the speed of AI evolution. So it seems like AI capabilities have been doubling. Just about every 6 months, there's new models coming out, there are new tools coming out. Meanwhile, in the cybersecurity world, for lots of reasons, we're still kind of stuck using techniques that are, sometimes decades old, with a lot of time spending routine manual analysis or sifting through data. Meanwhile, as Bob said, threat volumes are increasing exponentially because a lot of the adversaries are actually using some of these AI tools. Meanwhile, our analyst capacity or security professional capacity stays flat. So adversaries are using AI, but organizations are falling further and further behind every day. And so what we're trying to do is build a new paradigm where we're just more than using ChatGPT or Gemini or any general AI tools you might have been using. Think of those GPTs and those general AI tools sort of like smart interns. They might be smart, but you need to do endless prompting. You have to kind of micromanage them. They often get things wrong, or sometimes they even make things up, which can be very dangerous for our line of work. But you can think of agentic AI as a team of seasoned consultants who can on their own coordinate and collaborate to execute high-level tasks and make sure that they do it with actual source, real data. So what we're doing is taking these AI agents and we're taking them to the next level with an agentic graph architecture, which basically means that agents can now dynamically call each other based on the task requirements. So think of each agent as having its own role. Some might function as project managers, some interface with human beings, and others coordinate specialist agents that are really good at doing one task. So think of this as, in traditional programs, you have linear predetermined instructions, right? You have to give if-then programming logic to these software algorithms. A lot of them are, require you to hoard a lot of data and massive data lakes, which itself become a threat. AI agents, think of them as having intention and reasoning power, right? So they understand their jobs and objectives at a very high level, and they understand what the end goal looks like, so what you're actually trying to achieve. They have a menu of data sources, so they can figure out what information they need and where to get it without you having to tell them every single time. They have built-in business logic, so they can understand cybersecurity tradecraft and best practices. And they have the ability to deliver results in the format you need. So in Blackwire 1.0, you saw that in the chat in the chat format. But in the future, we're going to have it, interfacing with other programs, but also outputting PDFs, documents, video, audio files, podcasts in multiple languages, and so on. So think of it as the key interface difference as well, right? So in GPT programs, there's a lot of endless chat prompting. You have to keep going back and forth. What we're trying to get with 2.0 and these agents is think of them as sort of like an easy button that can execute tasks automatically, right? They can even do them on schedule without you having to prompt them. So a real world example could be, with a traditional AI or analysis program, you might say, I want you to extract this one IP address or a list of IP addresses from this one PDF file. And then you're going to have to go back in and check and make sure that it actually did it correctly and it didn't make up those IP addresses. With our platform and AI agents, in contrast, you say something like, analyze this threat intelligence and tell me if it's relevant to my organization. So you don't have to go through all those intermediary steps. You can go right to where you actually want to be. And so this is where Blackwire is uniquely positioned because we're one of the first cybersecurity companies that are actually building these truly agentic workflows. We're actually one of the few companies building this globally, and it's taken about 18 months of R&D and investment, while a lot of our competitors are still sort of stuck building chatbots and things that just look like ChatGPT. Now, what does this mean for the future of work? And we really believe it's about empowering creativity and eliminating drudgery, right? So what the change here is, in the past, you might have spent 6 hours reading 50 plus pages of threat reports and gotten plenty of headaches because of it. Now you can spend 2 minutes just reviewing the actionable intelligence that a highly trained agent can produce for you. Weeks, and before you might have spent weeks manually comparing policies against frameworks. Now you can spend minutes just reviewing an implementation roadmap, right? So think of these as productivity multipliers, where some of our early customers, as Scott mentioned, have already reported 10x productivity gains on routine analysis. And what this also means is that your senior analyst can now focus on doing kind of that higher level thinking, right? On threat hunting or strategic planning. And then even your junior staff gets upskilled faster, and they can kind of operate at that senior analyst level, but and get there quicker with the agent assistance. So this is not so much about replacing people, it's about augmenting expertise, right? So we want the AI to handle that repetitive analysis so the humans can make the strategic decisions. We want the AI and the agents to provide that expert level analysis so the humans can think about how to incorporate that into the organizational context. And so we want to transform reactive security teams into proactive threat hunters. Now, let me get into exactly what these agents are and how they're going to kind of address your biggest operational challenges. So again, think of each agent as like hiring a specialized expert who understands your job, knows where to find the right data on their own, and delivers exactly what you need without micromanagement. So one of the first agents we're building is the operationalizing intelligence agent. Here, the traditional problem has been that, like I said, you might have 20 plus threat reports to go through on a daily basis. You might have each report could be 30 plus pages of very dense technical content. That's a lot to get through. Your team can't possibly read them all, let alone operationalize them. Instead, you can have our agent do it. So our agent has access to those data feeds and data sources that Bob talked about that are validated, where you can trust the source, where they're audited. So it knows your threat feeds. And since you can bring your own knowledge base in now, it knows your vulnerability scanners, your tech stack, your asset inventory. That agent has a built-in expertise and business logic that knows how to leverage things like the MITRE ATT&CK framework or the diamond model, and it knows how to deliver results in the format you want, right? So precise technical signatures, YARA rules, IOC lists, summaries. So a real world example here could be, in the morning, you upload an APT report you get from a vendor. By lunchtime, you have a customized technical mitigation plan ready for deployment. So the agent here will have autonomously determined your risk level, created the detection signatures, and identified the affected systems. Another agent that we're building and we're going to be deploying this fall is the compliance agent. So again, the traditional challenge here is, if you might want to do manual policy reviews, that takes weeks and you can often miss critical gaps. I know personally what it takes to do an audit preparation, and it causes a massive amount of stress. It's a massive resource drain. What we're trying to do is offload a lot of those headaches to this agent, right? So the agent, again, has access to these vetted data sources. Since you can bring your own knowledge base, it understands your policies. It can go hit regulatory databases like NIST, and it understands the current threat landscape because it's talking to other agents whose job it is to monitor that. And then it has a built-in expertise, so it understands things like regulatory frameworks and how to think about compliance requirements and how to think about audit standards. And it knows how to deliver specific outcomes for you and results that will help you with your audit. So think of it as, it can produce gap analysis, so comparing existing policies against multiple frameworks. It can do policy creation, so generating tailored policies using proven templates. And it can even do living updates, right? So it can constantly monitor regulatory changes and suggest policy updates automatically for you. So again, a real world example here is, at 9 a.m., you upload your current security policy. In about an hour, you have a comprehensive gap analysis with a full remediation plan. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about another use case, which is our tabletop exercise agent. Here, the traditional pain point is creating these tabletop exercises and getting your organization prepped for attacks. It could take weeks of research and planning to create these realistic scenarios. You might want to outsource that to one of those big four consulting firms, but that can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, takes weeks, and often you might get back things that don't actually reflect your specific environment or your specific threat landscape. Instead, what this agent does is, one, it knows your tech stack, right? It knows your org chart. It knows what you've given it. It understands kind of the industry threat intelligence. It understands things like geographic factors. It has built-in expertise where it knows about incident response frameworks and realistic attack progressions. It's been trained on thousands and thousands of documents of past tabletop exercises and outcomes, so it knows how to think about crisis management. And then it can deliver a complete exercise package with facilitator guides, participant materials, custom injects. So the magic that's going on here is it determines appropriate threat actors for your industry and your geography. It can create realistic attack progression based on your actual tech, and it can adapt those scenario complexity based on the experience level of your participants. So again, a real world example here is on Monday, you request a ransomware tabletop exercise. By the next day, you have a complete exercise package with 20 plus realistic injects ready to go. And then finally, another agent that we're coming out with, and one that's already getting a lot of use, is a daily brief or the deep research agent. Now, I already talked about how some of the other agents might be leveraging this one, but a traditional challenge that a human might face is information overload, right? So you have hundreds of daily security alerts. You have to keep up with a lot of security news. A lot of it is just not relevant to your environment or the landscape you face, but you still have to go through them to even see if they're relevant. It's a lot of work and it takes up a lot of time, and there's no way you can possibly keep up with what's actually going on. Instead, if you leverage this agent, it taps into these global threat feeds. It taps into vulnerability databases. And since it understands your tech stack, it understands what industry you're in and what your role is and what you're interested in. It has a built-in expertise where it's been trained on how to do risk profiling, how to do threat correlation. It understands how to do business impact analysis. And so it can deliver personalized briefs, deep dive analysis. We were even having it produce multimedia files. So for example, we had one CISO who wants his daily brief every morning in a podcast that he can listen to when he drives into work. We can even produce those podcasts in multiple languages. It can create executive summaries. We can even have the agent send out alert email or even message you in Slack or Microsoft Teams. So again, the intelligence capabilities of this agent are that it can automatically correlate global threats with your specific vulnerabilities, and it can adapt and format, the format based on your recipient role. So a CISO will get a different brief and should get a different brief than maybe a SOC analyst, maybe something different than another executive who's not as plugged in to cybersecurity, but still kind of wants to know what's going on. So this agent gives you the ability to deep dive on emerging threats and give you actual actionable recommendations. So again, a real world example here is every morning you get a personalized brief highlighting threats to your infrastructure. And you get the agent not only telling you those threats, but also telling you what vulnerabilities are in your specific software versions, right? And it can work with other agents, for example, the compliance agent, to do impact assessment and mitigation steps automatically. So really, Blackwire 2.0 that we're launching this fall, the idea here isn't to do piecemeal improvements, but to transform how to do cybersecurity operations. So we've already started working with early access partners. We're seeing those dramatic productivity improvements, leveraging our agents. I've only highlighted 4 here, but we will be deploying more and more over the fall that you can access via the platform. And due to our proprietary agentic graph technology, we can rapidly deploy many more, including those built by our clients that distill their unique tradecraft and is uniquely used just by them. So what this means for you is you can stop drowning in threat reports and manual analysis, and you can transform your team from a small team into a force multiplier and stay ahead of threats instead of just constantly reacting. So think about this as not just about building better AI tools, but really fundamentally reimagining how cybersecurity work gets done. Thank you.
That's awesome, Ravi. We have had some questions come in. One of the main questions was around, hey, what's the executive business outcome for a typical company? We touched on some of them. One of them is a strategic workforce transformation, either an uplift of what you currently have or an acceleration of what you're attempting to do. The one example was the CISO who said, hey, I'm going to be flat for the next 2 years because Blackwire is now in my ecosystem, and it's a force multiplier, and it's an augmentation of my workforce. The second one is a risk reduction and compliance acceleration. Ravi nailed that out of the park with that specific agent. We'd be happy to talk with anybody on this call about that later. Decision-making and enterprise speed. Instead of taking days to get something done, even a tabletop exercise to prepare it, it's down to hours. Even a reaction like an incident response. We had a healthcare organization. We were able to do it in 4 hours versus a 24 or 48-hour cycle. And then the last piece is the proven sector and specific value creation for each of those sectors. We touched on healthcare. We touched on government. We've also touched on finance specifically. And the power of Blackwire and these agents, specifically in a highly regulated industry like finance or healthcare, is going to be, incredible. The last piece that another question that came in tied into, hey, would this be able to help us with a level 1 or level 2 cyber maturity model certification? The answer is 100% yes. There's over 300,000 companies in the defense industrial base that are seeking level 1 and level 2 so that they can continue to do business. One of the capabilities that we were able to port in and bring in here, and it's trusted and verifiable to all the regulations and policies around that level 1 and level 2 certification, this will help you with. Robbie, there was one other question that came in the chat. Actually, there's 4. One was, cyber threats are always changing. How do you keep up with them? Either you or Bob, could you please take that?
Well, I would just say that, yes, that's been occurring for decades. The adversaries will always surprise you. And so the way to keep up with it is, I think, using agentic AI. You keep ingesting everything you can about the threat actors. And I won't say that you're going to stay ahead of it, but you'll do as good as possible through agentic AI to look at this stuff. And Ravi, how would you answer that?
Yeah, I've built a lot of sort of decision-making intelligence analysis tools in the past for various government agencies. And one of the issues you often get is information overload. And I think where AI agents come in is to help you cut that down and filter down to what's actually relevant to you. So yes, and as the threat landscape keeps evolving, there are going to be many massive new threats that come out. A lot of them are just not going to be relevant to you, but you're still going to have to go and investigate, figure that out first. With AI agents that kind of help you do that first step, which is a lot of lift off your plate, so you can now focus on the threats that actually matter. And kind of just to get into the weeds a little bit, with AI agents, you don't have to tell them explicitly, hey, go to that data source, then go to that one, then go to that one. We don't have to collect all of that data and that's sitting in one server, right? That costs a lot of money to do, and it creates its own vulnerabilities. Instead, the AI agents can on their own figure out, okay, I see that there's kind of news about this threat vulnerability. Let me reason about where can I get that data concerning that vulnerability from. So it can go out on its own, look at a list of sanctioned data sources and validated ones that you have access to or we have access to through our platform. Go get that data, make sense of it, and go, okay, this is actually important and relevant. Let me push that back up so the security team can actually deal with this. So into the weeds, it's more about the AI agents themselves are doing a better job of kind of getting the right relevant data, and they're pushing that to you.
Yeah. I love that. I really love that. And Scott, just looking at the clock here, we may have time for just one more question. And for any questions that aren't answered, maybe we can follow up with people offline.
I think that's a great call, and most importantly, how to contact us. Please just go to the blackwirelabs.com website. Our information is there. We would love to help you, or even have a conversation, or even partner with you. This is not about a sale. This is about uplifting. And we came together as a company for one main reason. We feel that the small to medium business area is underserved, under-resourced, and lacks a lot of expertise that the bigger companies can afford. And this could be a sweet spot for you. We're also working with enterprise as well. Bob, anything to add to that?
No, I would just say that, man, for everybody who I introduced Ravi and Scott, and now you see why I said what I said. Scott, that was brilliant. Thanks. Some guy who's been in direct contact with adversaries like you and are now building defenses. Just really, really valuable. And Ravi, I think you knocked it out of the park. A real builder of AI systems, and the things you built here are just really exciting. Great context.
Cutting edge. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we wish you well. Look forward to hearing from you.